From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is The Hub with Wang Guan.
Hello and welcome to this special roundtable marking the 10th anniversary of the launch of China-CELAC Forum. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Over the past decade, China and countries across Latin America and the Caribbean have developed a partnership built on growing trust and shared goals, despite the distance between them. Back in 2015, China set some big targets to boost annual trade with the region to $500 billion and reach $250 billion in total investment within 10 years. Fast forward to today, we're getting very close. In the first 9 months of 2024, trade between the two sides reached $427.4 billion, up nearly 8% from last year. And with 22 countries in the region now signing on to the Belt and Road Initiative, with more expected this time around, cooperation is expanding fast, especially in infrastructure, energy, and digital connectivity. So how far have we come in the past 10 years, and where is the relationship headed next? Now, to help us explore all these questions, I'm joined by a distinguished group of experts from both sides of the Pacific. In Brasilia, we have Larissa Walchals, partner at Valia Business Advisory and senior fellow at the Brazilian Center for International Relations, CBRI. Joining us from Bogota, Colombia, we have Ingrid Tatiana Chavez, Executive Director of the Colombian Chinese Chamber of Investment and Commerce. In Shanghai, we have Professor Zhang Shixue, Director of the Center for Latin American Studies at Shanghai University. And in Zhuhai, we have Daniel Morales, Associate Professor at the School of International Studies at Sangyetsen University, and he's also a member of the Mexican National System of Researchers. So good to have all of you with us, and thanks so much for joining us. Larissa, let me go to you first. You're very much involved in China-Brazilian relations, helping elevate the standard of cooperation. The China-CELAC conference is about to take place very soon. What are your expectations for this year's conference, considering what's going on right now?
Yeah, it's indeed a very good timing for the conference. The major idea behind Brazil's position has been throughout this time to highlight the importance of multilateralism, especially to middle-sized economies such as Brazil's economy. Brazil really values the possibility of looking into collaboration models, and we really think that this is the way that foreign affairs and foreign affairs strategies can help the country move forward with its own economic development agenda. So I think that's it's maybe one of the key messages to be highlighted at this point, like that countries prefer to work together and try to find solutions to their problems because this definitely increases the chances of each of us being successful in our own development strategies.
What do you think this says about the level of Brazil's commitment to working with China to promote multilateralism?
Brazil's and China's commitment to work together and to find a path forward that actually brings more cooperation to the table, especially in a very unique year, you may say, or a unique sequence of events. If you think that Brazil was hosting the G20 at the end of last year when President Xi Jinping came to Brazil, and now there is also in July the BRICS summit taking place in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and at the end of the year COP30 will be taking place in Pará State, Brazil as well. So those are very big and important international meetings, convenings that bring leaders to meet each other and discuss matters of common concern. So I think Lula's presence, making the effort to be there in China at the moment, really highlights the importance of China and Brazil working together to deal with some of the challenges of the current times that they do relate a lot to economic and trade challenges as we are seeing, but they also talk a lot about climate change and the needs to go forward in decarbonization. So without forgetting the climate change and environment perspective, that is it's a very collective concern to a lot of us. So I think it really says a lot about how the two countries are willing to move together and the agendas that are possible for countries to work together with those that actually want to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. In what shapes up to be an unprecedented year for China, Brazil, and China, Latin American countries' cooperation. Professor Jiang, let me turn to you, if I may. China values this event, pays great attention, and attaches great importance to the China-CELAC Forum. What do you think are the significance for this forum for bringing China and Latin American countries closer together?
As you know, China's relationship with Latin America has covered many areas and in many ways. And we call this kind of forum as a collective cooperation. By saying collective, that means China wants to have dialogue with all the countries, 33 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And this time for the forum, I believe that we are going to discuss many important things, and I believe that there will be a fruitful discussion, particularly about the so-called U.S. fact in China-Latin America relationship. Panama, the trade war, I believe that China needs this kind of forum to discuss with countries in Latin America how we can protect multilateralism, how we can fight against hegemonism and unilateralism.
Yeah, those are the real threats we have right now, considering what's happening right now. Ingrid, let me turn to you. China has a very robust relationship with Colombia. If you think about trade, the export of coffee beans from Colombia to China, which is loved by the Chinese consumers, and also the infrastructure projects China is working with their Colombian counterparts to deliver for Colombia. What are your expectations for China-CELAC conference?
Well, the forum gives Latin America, not just Latin America, but Colombia specifically at this time, and in this moment where President Petro is the CELAC president and will visit China next week, we expect even deeper collaboration in areas like clean energy, that is kind of in the strategy of Colombian government, food security, digital transformation, logistics process and improvements. It has, the CELAC Forum, it has elevated Latin Americans' strategic importance in global cooperation, provide a platform for countries like Colombia, in this case, to engage with China in a more deeper way in shaping shared solutions. Because as you know well, Colombia has been really close with the United States and the relations with the United States. That is our first commercial ally in terms of, well, imports and exports. Right now, actually, China is taking a good place, and this year, in the first 3 months, is already in a better place than the United States in terms of imports. So we are expecting and we are proud that Colombia and China have just elevated their relationship to a strategic level when President Petro went to China in 2023, after 45 years of diplomatic ties. This creates more trust and opens the door for bigger and more impactful projects. We hope this time Colombia also signs the Belt and Road Initiative under the CELAC Forum. We are not party yet, and actually today it was a really issue in the Colombian media because everyone is talking about joining or not joining the Belt and Road Initiative. So for us, it's just opportunities, and it's a good thing that President Petro is going to be the president of the CELAC.
Very good. We also hope that, of course, Mexico can come on board with the Belt and Road Initiative. So will Brazil. I threw that question at President Lula multiple times. He's enthusiastic, but I understand there are complexities. Daniel, let me turn to you in Zhuhai right now in China, but you're from Mexico. Talk to us about Mexico's perspective in navigating through the geopolitical tensions and turmoil right now, and the importance of working with China through this China-CELAC platform.
Well, thank you for the invitation. In fact, I think the Mexican situation is so similar than Colombian, right? For Mexico as Colombia, United States have been the most important partner for decades. Yeah, it's our most important neighbor, and the trade and is concentrated there. More than 30 million Mexicans live in the United States. But the cooperation with China have been growing the previous decades. In fact, now China is the second trade partner. Then the importance of China now is really, really, really important. In that sense, I think this next forum is going to help to Mexico to diversify its relations. I think the Mexican authorities now really need to find new partners, and China is the second most important economy now, an important partner for the future. Then it is a great opportunity for Mexican authorities.
You know, there is this one elephant in the room that is the United States, to be more specific, the Trump administration. So let me turn back to you, Larissa. We know that Brazil has a strategic and time-honored relationship with the United States. Given what's going on right now, the turn to the right in the United States, the MAGA movement, do you think these set of policies, the tariff, being weaponized against countries like China, like Latin America, like ASEAN. Considering all that is happening right now, do you think that will somehow push Brazil and Latin America to work more closely with China, at least when it comes to investment and trade?
Well, I think that Brazil's relationship with the U.S., it's a very long-term relationship. Last year, Brazil and the U.S. celebrated 200 years of diplomatic relations. It was the same year that Brazil and China celebrated 50 years of diplomatic relations. So there's no question that it's a very strong relationship in terms of foreign direct investment. It's the major investment in terms of the stock of foreign direct investment in Brazil so far. So I think that Brazil has a very challenging, it's a big challenge to balance the relationship with the different countries in the world. But this is what we have been trying to do since the early years of Brazilian diplomatic strategy was in place. So I think the challenge remains there. And at the same time, Brazil and China have been strengthening their relationship regardless of the U.S. position for the past a number of years. So in 2009, China became Brazil's largest commercial partner. And from 2010 onwards in particular, it has been increasing its stock of foreign direct investment in Brazil. So Brazil has remained in a position of being like China's 4th to 5th largest destination of foreign direct investment. And a type of investment that I must say that makes a lot of sense, it's mutually beneficial on the two sides because it is a focus on assets that are like capital intensive assets that Brazil wouldn't be able to develop on its own because of its lack of savings and really financial resources and fiscal space to implement the projects by itself. So having China partner with us to develop some of these very expensive projects in energy generation and transmission has proved itself a very, very positive development strategy for the country. So I think that it will remain like that in the sense that China and Brazil will remain very strong partners. But I think what we can expect from the future is a deeper level of sophistication to this relationship, which is what I think Brazil is looking at the moment. So there's no question that the trade and the investment are at a very interesting level to the two sides, but there are concerns in terms of adding value to exports and helping develop the local industries and creating jobs to ensure that the youth will also be put in the workforce in a way that, with good jobs and jobs that require education and improve productivity. So all these efforts that are like mid to long-term efforts of any developing country, I think will be more and more on the agenda also of this Brazil-China relationship, in the sense of thinking, how can China also be part of that? So my feeling is that China will be will find in Brazil a very open partner that is also very flexible, especially in terms of attracting foreign direct investment. Like Brazil has been traditionally a very, very open country with very few rules on where international investors can invest into the country. So I think this will be pushed even further in the years to come.
Professor Jiang, given what's happening in Washington, D.C., which many consider to be tantamount to trade bullying, given the erratic nature of U.S. foreign diplomacy at this point in time, is that an opportunity for China to step up and step into the leadership role and to rally in the global South, especially the Latin American countries, to do more justice for multilateralism and the collective rise towards a more equitable and a fairer global order?
Yes, in order to fight against the hegemonies and protectionism, China and other countries in the global South camp should get united to take more tangible actions. One of the actions I suggest would be to promote economic cooperation. China is going to buy less from the U.S. and China is going to sell less to the U.S. So I believe that China wants to open up its market in other parts of the world, including Latin America. As far as I know, in the trade war several years ago, China imported lots of soybeans from Brazil and also Argentina. So this time, I believe that China is going to buy more soybeans and other kinds of primary products from Latin America. China is going to sell more to the continent, to Latin America. So that means there will be more trade opportunities. There will be more investment opportunities. Well, as a Chinese scholar, I always say to promote bilateral economic cooperation, it's a two-way street. On the one hand, China should open its market more widely so that more products from South America, Central America, and the Caribbean can be sold to China. And on the other hand, I believe that countries in Latin America should strengthen your competitiveness in the Chinese market because the Chinese market is very competitive. If your products are not so competitive, well, maybe you cannot take a good advantage of the big market in China. And at the same time, I always say that investment from Latin America, please come to China. China's market is big. We also need investment not only from the U.S., but also from Latin America. So please come.
Ingrid, how does President Gustavo Petro's administration position China, given the policies of U.S. President Donald Trump?
Right now, he's realizing what all the Chinese companies, for example, are doing in our country. For example, in Bogota, the first metro line that we have here is being built by China Harbor, a Chinese company, and also they already finished one highway in another big city of Colombia, and that have been like a good point for him to realize and to get to know how Chinese companies work here in our country. This is a good thing because right now with all the situation with the United States, he is like saying every day that we have to open the market and new markets in terms of trade. And right now, more of 80% of what we export to China is coal and petroleum and oil, but we have many more products than that. So I think both governments have been working very hard, like to open, for example, all the phytosanitary issues and permits, like to export more goods of our non-traditional goods to China, for example, coffee, as you mentioned, or the meat, the pork, the poultry. All of these are new opportunities that President Petro is taking into account in this recent year. Even though I think we are missing, as Colombia and the Colombian government is missing a very active or one strategy with China. For example, what Mexico had, like welcome, and Professor Yang also mentioned it, like welcome more Chinese companies, giving them more benefits, like to attract them, like to come to our country. We don't have that strategy with China. We are missing that. I hope that he signs the Belt and Road Initiative. He welcomes them, for example, what Mexico did in terms of the trade zones and open the logistic parks to Chinese companies to establish there. We can do that as Colombia also. We have a strategic position in South America. We are the door and the entrance door to all the countries, like to welcome more Chinese companies to come here in terms of doing some nearshoring or to export goods to other Latin American countries or South American countries. So I think he has been slow, but he's working on that, and his team and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Commerce have visited China in terms of what we want for this China-Colombian relationship. So I think we are in that way still missing 1 year of Petro's president government. So we will see what happens.
Daniel, I mean, the United States is Mexico's neighbor, has been and will always be. Given the fact that Mexico has to deal with the United States, how is Mexico City navigate through its relations with China versus that with the United States, given Trump's tariff war, especially?
Yeah, it's true. In Mexico, we have a motto that is far from God, but so close to the United States. Yeah, that means we cannot change of neighbor, and it has been an important ingredient of Mexican foreign policy. Yeah, but in that sense, I have to recognize that President Sheinbaum is still shaping the new Mexican foreign policy. Yeah, why shaping? Because for many years, for decades, we had Mexico more a neoliberal governments, yeah, more oriented to and also so friendly with the United States. That's why it was signed the North Free Trade Agreement with the United States and Canada. Mexico looked for United States and Canada instead of Latin America. Yeah. But 6 years ago, it changed. López Obrador, President López Obrador, began as president of Mexico, and he tried to turn this engagement, this international position of Mexico. I say that he tried because in the middle there was a pandemic. Yeah, there was an extraordinary moment in international relations. Yeah, and that interrupted, I think, the international switch implemented by Mexico. Yeah, but now we can see a continuity with President Sheinbaum, and President Sheinbaum is now participating in international forums. Yeah, she was also in Brazil last summer in the G20 summit. She also participated in APEC in Lima, Peru, last year also. Then we can see that Mexico is resuming national participation. Yeah. Then, in that sense, also as a left-wing government, the President Sheinbaum is trying to diversify and trying to find new partners. Also, I think that is little by little trying to balance. This is so difficult because it's the most important partner, United States. As I mentioned, million of Mexicans also live there. Then the social connections are also super strong. But the new administration, she has faced the importance of diversify the Mexican international insertion.
Larissa, let me turn to you. Given the disruptions that we have right now, not just geopolitically, but in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of digitization, what do you think are the key trends defining China-Brazil cooperation? And what are your personal hopes for it to go in the future?
Well, I just came back from a trip to China last week, and I spent 2 weeks there visiting companies, interacting with different players. And again, I was, as always, very impressed about what's going on in China. So visiting some of these leading artificial intelligence companies in Shanghai and around the Shanghai area, it's really impressive to see how much young, educated people, driven people want to find solutions to problems that are problems to all of us. So I do think that Brazil and China have a chance to actually work together in these high-tech fronts. Brazil and China have had a joint space program since the 80s, which was something quite unusual for two developing countries to have at that time. So I hope that the same standard is presented by this time, that they can work together on artificial intelligence and all these clean technologies that Ingrid also mentioned that are on the plans of Colombia. And I have to say, these are also very important plans for the region as a whole. Brazil is also a major producer of oil, but it also looks into the challenges of decarbonization. We do think that Brazil, because of the very unique profile of its energy mix that is based on hydropower and has been increasingly adding wind and solar power to the grid, that China can also give a good contribution to that, not only in helping stabilize the increasing volume of wind and solar in the grid, but also finding solutions to problems that all of us will face in the near future with energy storage and some other issues to keep our energy mix clean. And if those challenges are overcome, that means Brazil has the possibility of attracting industrial investments in need of decarbonization. So when we think about all these hard-to-abate industries that are doing research around China now on how to decarbonize, how to meet targets for reducing carbon emissions, all those challenges are common to us. And I believe Brazil should be telling their Chinese partners, look, come and bring your industrial plants to Brazil, and now they can produce with affordable clean energy. Maybe this is a competitive advantage that we could use, and I hope we will use as an investment pitch in the future.
Yeah, we have a fond memory of Belo Monte project that is benefiting Brazil as well as China. Professor Jiang, what are your personal hopes for China-LAT cooperation, CELAC cooperation going forward?
If you compare with this kind of relationship between China and Latin America 10 years ago, we can see a very, very important difference. That difference is the new area of investment for China in Latin America, high tech. Okay, as far as I know, over the past decade, China has made lots of investment in the areas of high tech. So I hope that in the near future, both sides should figure out more ways to have cooperation in high tech, because this is a tendency for human development. We have to pay more attention to investment in these high-tech areas.
I want to thank all of our panelists for this wonderful discussion and for their insights. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to this special roundtable on the 10th anniversary of China-CELAC Forum. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. I'll see you again next time.